Welcome to the InfoMullet YouTube channel. If you enjoy this content, please like or share. And if you'd like to support the InfoMullet by becoming a mulleteer, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate your support. John Custis is asking, COVID, will it rise enough to prompt lockdowns? And if so, where and when will violence, militia, QAnon, pre-election, Antifa, etc. kick off? I don't think there will be much. So I'm not one of the ones who forecasts a lot of mass instability and violence. And I know everyone's like, well, where have you been all summer? You know, overall speaking, there's been an uptick in violence, but it tends to be one or two deaths here or there. It tends to be a lot of scuffling and things like that. There's definitely some arsons and burnings, but it's not like a mass wave of violence. I mean, I'm going to point out, I hate to say this because I don't want to jinx this. No one's noticed that we haven't had a major mass shooting, active shooting event, 5 or more casualties in almost a year and a half now. And it's kind of like we're not in record territory, but we're getting close to it. And it's interesting because we are focused on these micro issues, the Kenosha, Wisconsin shooting at the protest, the Antifa fights in Portland. These are micro issues when it comes to mass instability that I kind of look at. It doesn't mean there's not going to be protests and riots and things like that. But most of the protests and riots that have happened have been an outgrowth of police action or related to police action. We've seen some militia type activities when it comes to a lockdown. They'll go into the state house and they'll make a show of force, but we haven't seen a lot of violence associated with lockdowns. And one of the things that COVID does is it's an equal opportunity killer. Well, that's not really true. There's some groups that are more vulnerable than others. But what I'm saying is that unlike an ideological dispute, like police disparity, who's right, who's wrong, we'll get in a big argument. I have my opinions. Certainly, I've said that before. But COVID-19, as soon as that hits your family and you see your grandparent or your parent or your loved one or something like that taken out by it, I think it begins to change your perspective. The reality is it just hasn't hit all the areas of the country. And as it hits more of these areas of the country and people get to see more, the president is still portraying this, I'm not affected, I'm not impacted, but I think his only really core base is believing him at all anymore on any of that. Jennifer's asking, is that mainly because people haven't been in school, workplaces? Definitely, Jennifer. That was one of the things I predicted early in the forecast, is that it was not going to, we would have less mass violence simply because people weren't in the workplaces and school. So the independent active shooting event that's at a random location. But think about all the scuffles and the riots and the protests we've had where armed people are on both sides. If someone wanted to do a mass shooting at a protest, that would be the avenue you would replace because you can't go to the school or the workplace. That there hasn't been those events. We haven't seen someone shoot 10, 15 people at one of these events. I hope to God it doesn't happen, but that's a sign that we're not seeing that level yet. And it goes to this theory that clandestine terrorism, the radicalization that goes behind it, takes time. It takes 6 to 18 months to go through this runway where your predatory mass violence, as opposed to your effective, get up to speed. And so if I were, for me, what's surprising to me so far over the summer is with all these riots and mass crowded events, there haven't been, as far as we know, other than the Boogaloo Boys Air Force sergeant in California, and he did a targeted killing. There haven't been mass shooting events at these. There's certainly been a lot of car rammings and other things. I'm not saying it's safe by any measure of the stretch of the imagination. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see if it changes. But again, there was even a stretch, I think the last ones were in the summer when we had that spate of Walmart in El Paso and Dayton, Ohio. That was summer of 2019, I think. Yeah, so even before the pandemic, we had a stretch. I'm not saying it's definitive, but it's just interesting to me with all the tension and concern people have, there haven't been incidents of mass violence. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to follow the InfoMullet, visit us on Facebook or Twitter. And if you'd like notifications when we post new video content, click on the red subscribe button below the video. If you've ever wanted to become a mulleteer and support the InfoMullet, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate the support.